there, helps everybody come on in. So good to see you. Good to see you. I put up an icebreaker poll. Hopefully you can see that. Let's see, I'm getting some response. That's awesome. You can let me know if you love them, hate them, if you use them or not. And in a few moments, you get to tell me what you think about icebreakers as we do our icebreaker together in introductions. And then the whole thing is going to talk about icebreakers. Our format today is to talk for about 45 minutes of discussion, and then we even have some, I'll give you back your time, but if you have other questions that aren't even related to icebreakers, we can go into that for a few minutes as well. So awesome. Another one coming in, fantastic. Okay. But first, before we get started today, a word from our sponsor. Okay, I'm going to share the results of that in just a minute. Hopefully that poll just pops up for everybody who comes in. So Gabby, there's a poll. Hopefully it'll show you what that poll is. So let's see. I went too far. There we go. Our sponsor is Message Mindset, and all 4 founding members of Message Mindset are here today, which is really, really exciting. So Message Mindset is a place where, oh, I gotta add more. This is awesome. Yay! More people. Fantastic. So Message Mindset was a group of trainers that came together and wanted to have a way to leverage the work that each other was doing, share that and promote our classes a little bit more, and also work together because of our connection that we made in Message Mindset. We've been teaching some classes together, which is really fun. Monique and I just taught the Certified Interpretive Host course, the CIH course, together online for the first time. Awesome. So we're really excited about that. We're hoping, yeah, exactly. We're hoping to do that again in the fall. So if you want to send people our way, you can definitely contact us about, dates and times and things like that work for you. In addition to that, we've put together things like this trainer series. Last year, we did 2 series, so 8 sessions altogether that were directly for interpreters, some helpful tips, and they had a little bit of a different format. It was about 20-30 minutes of information and then open discussion about that information. And all those, well, 7 of the 8 were recorded, and they're on our Facebook channel, and you can check them out for free. So I hope you will. This is also being recorded, so this will go on our Facebook channel as well, and so you can watch it again later. And then what I hope to do from today is to create a little recap and send it all out to you for those of you who are joining us today. But of course, or if you're like anything like me, you'll probably take notes quite a bit. So let me show you what's on the Message Mindset page, which is really awesome. Our home page has our different upcoming courses. Our Learning Hub goes into some of those options a little bit more. And most likely, let's see, we'll put our link to Message Mindset in the chat. So hopefully, Monique, if you can take a moment to get that so people can join us up. If you subscribe to our newsletter, you get all this information too on a regular basis. We don't really spam you. It's about once a month we send you out a connection to us. We also have this wonderful resources tab. Here's our Learning Hub tab. So all of our CIG classes, the ability to connect with us for custom training, asynchronous courses are starting to come up, and then our other live events that we have coming up as well. And then our resources tab has things like our blog. So I wrote a really quick, Kristen's really good at keeping us to a really short blog, maybe just a couple minutes. And it's for a novelist like me, this is a real challenge. So I love it because it puts me in this very short, pop kind of mode. So hopefully you'll read some of our poppy blogs that are out there. Gabby, good to have you. And let's see, yeah, so our bread and butter, of course, just like NAIs, we're all independent instructors with NAI, so that's where most of our classes are. Okay, and then our upcoming events, we have a million different classes coming up, online CIG classes. You'll see all that on our front page, but also you've probably seen our names come up in on the NAI professional calendar. Our next training like this, our next trainer tips and tools, and is Tuesday, April 8th. We're going to be changing around dates and times a little bit to meet some different different audiences, different work schedules. But like I said, these are going to be recorded. So the next one's going to be Tuesday, April 8th, 11 o'clock MDT, because our time changes in just a minute. And what we're going to be talking about, Monique's going to be leading that discussion, and we're going to be talking about whether we focus on like the KR first, knowing our resource, how to help us know our resource, or knowing our audience. What sets us as we're training our interpretive guides, does one set us up better than another? Or are there other considerations when we figure out the order in which we teach our curriculum, whether you are a, a trainer for NAI doing the CIG courses, or whether you're training in your agency in a role that doesn't involve NAI, or whether you're an informal trainer, maybe you're just training your coworker, or maybe you're retraining yourself. Those are all really helpful for you. Anyone's welcome. Okay, so today we're before we get started, like I said, we're going to talk about icebreakers today. So we're going to start with our icebreaker. First of all, I'm going to see where, oh my goodness, where did that poll go? Can I find it? Let's see, there's the poll. Let's share the results. Hopefully that's showing up for you. Let's see, we got a little less than half of you answered. Let's see, we got about a third of you. That's kind of a nice even split here, I guess. A third of you hate them, so you don't use them. Well, that's a challenge for me. I'll get you to love them today. Maybe, maybe not. I can provoke you to think about them in a different way, at least we hope. Hate them, but use them anyway. Okay, I'm interested to hear more about that for sure. And I love them. I use them often. We're kind of evenly split between those. Awesome. We're going to have some fun with that today. Okay, I'm going to close that up. And of course, I have a theme today. Let's look at what that theme is today. Hopefully, if I can hit the right, there we are. The whys, hows, whens, and whats of using icebreakers create a whole connection greater than the sum of its individual parts. So let's talk about how that works. I'm going to stop my screen share so we can look at each other's faces a little bit bigger, a little bit better. It's like we're looking at, then, we're more like we're sitting at a table together, which is what I prefer. Right on. Good to see your smiley, happy faces. Okay, here's my question to you. Here's our icebreaker question that you get to answer now. Of course, as we go around, tell us your name, agency you work for, where you are at in the world, and who you train. So, maybe you're a trainer that's, maybe you don't do interpretive training. Maybe you train people in yoga. Maybe you train new staff at HR. Maybe you train maybe you train retail staff. Like I said, Monique and I just did the certified interpretive host course, and the hosts span all kinds of different fields and disciplines. So maybe you're in another field, which is awesome. We're still going to use the same techniques, right? If you're an interpretive trainer, do you train for NAI? Do you train in agency, or do you train informally? I'd love to hear a little bit about that. And then I want you to do this. I want you to finish this sentence. I'm going to put in the chat for you. Here we go. Finish the sentence. Icebreakers are whatever. Take a minute to introduce yourself. And first, I'm going to call on the message mindset panel. We got a whole panel of expertise today, but we also recognize that we are not the experts. We have become experts by only by listening to others. That's how we develop our expertise. And so you are just as much the experts as we are, and we learn just as much from you as hopefully you came to learn from us. We came to learn from you. So, but I will, if there's blanks in the discussion panel, that's where I will need you to kind of step up for sure. But otherwise, our guests here, our audience here, please jump in. Okay, so my name is Nikki Rohde, and I am joining you from Payson, Arizona, where it's finally snowing. We've had such a long drought, so it's finally snowing today. We're really excited about that. I am an independent instructor for NAI, and I have been for about 11 years now. And when I got online, I loved it. But when I got online, I had to adjust my icebreakers. So finish the sentence. Icebreakers are a great way of knowing more about people than just what they answer. All right, and I'm going to turn it over to one of my fellow or a sister message mindset um, sponsors, panelists. Gabby, will you go next?
Hi, yes. Hi, everyone. Well, it's a pleasure to be here this morning. And this is amazing. I really like this topic, really icebreakers. Even if we see it as okay, we're just going to start the session today with an icebreaker, is more than that, definitely. I think that we all a bit nervous when we are in front of different people that we probably don't know. And that includes us, the trainers. I get a bit anxious, especially because everybody is looking at me. And I'm like, I have to start the performance. And icebreaker, it really helps me. And well, I think that reduce anxiety and it creates a comfortable environment, starting with me. And then we can see a little bit also about the personalities and how people feel about the session. So I think it really breaks down barriers and we feel more relaxed and open to sharing more in the course and ideas. And that is really for me. And now perhaps we should think about the participants, but it really, I mean, I'm thinking about myself now, of course, but it really, really relaxes me. And I feel during the first activity, the icebreaker, I really feel I start the connection opportunity between them, the participants, and me as a trainer. I don't know, but I know Monique, and Monique is very good at this. I've been with her in some of trainings she have done, and I really felt like so comfortable when Monique starts also with the training and some not even complicated icebreakers, even if it's something simple. But if you have in mind that that will help you to create that connections, it happens and it really helps the environment for everyone. I hope I explain myself well with this, but you see, I started to get anxious. It's exactly what happens to me when I start with the course. So thanks to the icebreakers, I can ease that part.
I can go. Can you hear me okay? I'm in my car. Um, yes, I love icebreakers, just some formal and informal, because I think they're a great way to build community. And I just think back to a time when we were all coming back after lunch and I asked a group of participants, what's your favorite song? And there were actually two people from the same organization who put Harvest Moon by Neil Young, and it both just blew them away because they had no idea that they both loved this favorite song and happened to be working with each other. So that was very serendipitous. And I am excited for Nikki to do this because her icebreakers are much more interesting and fun. I stick with plain and simple, so I'm looking forward to dazzling a little bit more when I do my icebreakers. And I'm an interpretive trainer, as Gabby said, with message mindset, as well as classes that I do on my own. For the past, I think, 5 years, I've been in the education field for over 20. So I'm going to pass the icebreaker ball to Kristen.
It's always interesting to me to hear all the different reasons people like icebreakers. I would finish the sentence by saying icebreakers are a way to start turning a lecture into a conversation. But to do that, you need a little bit of what Gabby was talking about with the easing the anxiety and helping people relax, and Monique with the starting to build community, and Nikki starting to get all of that other information that lurks around the edges. So I think icebreakers fit the bill in every way of starting to make that shift. Not surprisingly, one of my passions as an instructor and as an interpretive trainer is in dialogue-driven work, highly interactive. Let's start a conversation and surf it and see where we go. So I have also been, I do interpretive training for the National Association of Interpretation, or for interpretation. But I also have my own company called Stage Naked. I've been in interpretation for 25 years, teaching, mentoring, training, coaching, off and on that entire time. And these days I both focus on interpretive storytelling and also on diving into sensitive subjects. So that's my nutshell. Can I pass a baton? Can I nominate? Because I noticed that Gina has been unmuted, and maybe Gina would be willing to go next.
Thanks. I am Gina Goralski. I am from the Minnesota Zoo. I actually got my BS degree in interpretation of natural resources. And I've been at the zoo for the past 30 odd some years, but even though I've been in the education department doing some interpretation, I felt more like a environmental educator because I was in a classroom doing programming, camps, things like that. And then recently with the change in mindset here at the zoo, it focused from more revenue-based programs to more value-added, and so I was put in charge of adding more of the value-added programs. So I kind of reverted back to my teachings as an interpretive naturalist. So I am delving into right now training some of our staff who have never been trained as interpretive naturalists before. Very good educators, but still need some of those tools and techniques of being an interpreter. So I just recently got certified as CIG, CIT, and a CIGT. I am actually going to be next month training 10 of my staff to be CIGs. I joined this webinar because I am not one for icebreakers, mainly because I am a little awkward in that area. So I just need a little help or training in that. And so to me, icebreakers are a little awkward from my perspective.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Gina. And I really appreciate hearing that they are awkward, and they're awkward for a lot of people. When I did some research getting ready for this, that it brought that up. And as an introvert, that brought it up for me too, is why I didn't like them in my past. So thank you. Awesome. I loved hearing all this, especially about the value added versus the revenue based. We're going to come back to that, I think, with the icebreakers as well. This is a great start. All right. Beth, are you there? I saw you. Yeah, awesome. Can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Beth Garner. I'm joining you from Pennsylvania. I work for the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources in the Bureau of State Parks. I spent about 16 years as a field educator in state parks, and now I am a regional program coordinator. So I provide guidance and support to all the state park educators within the South Central region of Pennsylvania. So I do training of my staff there. I also do training on more of a statewide level through the Bureau of State Parks. I do interpretive host trainings. I help with CIG. Yeah, a lot of training. And I will say, very similar to Gina, and personally, again, as like you said, as an introvert, I have found icebreakers can be really, really terrifying. I sit there and I think to myself over and over again, who am I and what do I do? Who am I and what do I do? I'm like rehearsing. But I think they can also be a really good way for participants to make connections, as well as instructors and participants to make connections.
Absolutely. Thank you, Beth, for putting that out there. Is yeah, we're gonna also I want to talk about that, as we get deeper into the conversation, that just feeling that anxiety of answering the first question to the point where we're not even listening to anything else because we're so anxious, in our own in our own skin when it comes to icebreakers. And we can be very comfortable with many other things that we're doing, or very comfortable in front of a group, or very, very comfortable even in different situations. And then all of a sudden it comes down to like spotlight time and we're like, for sure, for sure. So thank you for sharing your feelings on that. And we'll explore that in a little bit more. All right. And Sashi or Laura, would either one of you like to go next?
Yeah, no. Hold on, let me see me maybe. I'm Laura Carlson. I am the Senior Programs Director at Walking Mountains, which is located in Avon, Colorado. And I'm a certified interpretive guide trainer, and I primarily train our staff, our incoming summer seasonal staff, and then we have a smaller team that usually sticks around for the winter. So I help with the initial training, like curriculum training, but then we have the opportunity to coach them a lot in the time that they're here, whether it's 4 months or even up to a full year. I've been with this organization since 2003, so I graduated from college and came here and never left, which I think in the EE world is kind of, and interp world is a little unique. But my undergraduate degree was in outdoor education. So my life for 4 years in college, everything started with an icebreaker or a team building activity. And so I'm maybe a little different than some of the other people of like, I love a good, keyword good, icebreaker. And I don't get to use them as much as I used to when I was in the field more. But for me, I really think, especially with a group that you're going to be working with for more than a day, icebreakers are a great foundation for a relationship and for a community to build.
If you ever see me looking down, also I take copious notes on, and I'm a longhand person, so I'm scribbling away. Most of the time, I can't even read the notes later. But it reminds me of the things that I want to pull together. And one of the things that I heard you say, Laura, that I just loved is you get this opportunity, and it sounds like Gina and Beth, you get a little bit of this opportunity too, because you're in agency trainers. You get this opportunity to reconnect with people. Not just that once. I see them for the 32 hours of class, and then like I cross my fingers that I'll ever hear from them again. Sometimes I do, but in agency trainers have this wonderful opportunity to reconnect, and you can reconnect on a short time frame or reconnect on a longer time frame. And one of the things we're going to be talking about today is that who comes to those icebreakers? Are they strangers when they come to the icebreaker? Or are they people who already have some intimate knowledge of each other? And what are we building? Are we taking them from strangers to that intimate knowledge because they're going to be coworkers? Or are we taking them from that stranger situation and they're still going to be strangers? Or what's the intimacy level between the group and where the goal is on that? So it's really interesting. The other thing I noticed from all of us here is that we are all connected with NAI and we're all CIGT. So as we talk today, feel free to zero in on that. How do you do your training? Where does it fit? How do you organize your curriculum? And so how do you place an icebreaker in? How often do you do them? And so you can go ahead and speak from, like Laura, you and I both have I've done a lot of different trainings in different. I've taught people in art and writing as well. And so if you have, and I know Kristen does too as well. If you have a lot of training experience in different spots, feel free to, hey, when I did, this other type of training as opposed to CIG, this was kind of the difference. And that helps, broaden our experience too. But you are welcome to get as in the weeds on the fact that you're a CIT. That's totally fine. One of the reasons for doing this icebreaker today was to pull that out. Okay, where are we at? Are we all over the board on these, or are we all CITs? And I know that NAI does provide a wonderful forum. We just had it a couple of days ago for CITs, but we also, for the 4 of us from Message Mindset, we really felt like we needed something more, and that's what brought the four of us together. So that's why we came up with these trainings, especially for me. I actually love training trainers. That is like, that's where my niche is, I think. And so getting together on this level is really awesome for me. So that's where we're coming from, is that we wanted to make a support place for trainers, particularly for the CIG, but then beyond as well. So because we're all CIGTs here, feel free to get in the weeds on that a little bit more. So what I'm going to do today is, like I said, I have some guiding questions in several different like categories, but it's more important that our talk just kind of flows as we want it to. So we're here just for another like 15-20 minutes. So get down to it. Hearing what we like, there's two, like, I'm not really fond of them. I kind of find them terrifying if I'm participating in them. Two, I love them. I want to use them more. So let's start with, we were talking a little bit about icebreakers are, and we heard a couple responses of why we use them. Kristen brought up to get the group to go from lecture to discussion. Gabby brought up it helps her to become in place with the group and let her own anxiety and butterflies go. Monique, you use them for more plain and simple, but they're also, there's also a wonderful thing in that of plain and simple, is that when you're in line to go next, everybody's following that same format. You don't have to get more intimate than maybe you were ready for. Like if I went to if I had an icebreaker at the DMV for driver's ed, the last thing I'd want to do is tell my opinions on things, but I would be totally okay telling my name and where I'm from, right? So so plain and simple is sometimes really good. So let's talk first about why we use them. Here's a question for you. Let's expand on that a little bit more. What other opportunities do icebreakers provide for you as the trainer? I'm going to put that in the chat, but I'd love to hear.
I was just going to add one thing to that. Even though plain and simple, I use different formats for people to answer, because we're all CITs and many of us train online. I will have people answer in the chat versus verbally or a thumbs up. There's just different ways to meet Maslow's needs in regards to comfort when you have icebreakers that don't necessarily have to all be verbal in order to create connection.
Certainly might ease people into the discussion, right?
Sorry for. Yeah, that connections are important, but I was listening that it's true that sometimes we might feel that icebreakers are a little bit like just games, or it feels a bit awkward depending of the participants. Having the opportunity to be a trainer in different countries that not necessarily participants are coming from US, but different countries on the other different languages, also different levels, because as independent instructor, I've been training colleagues that are probably into the academic environment, and others are more into the guiding environment and different ones. So how can we adapt all of these icebreakers to the participants? Is also important to not make it only, this is just a game to break the ice, which is the name. But when you design these icebreakers accordingly to your audience, I speak really as an interpreter, but the words that are coming out when we are in front of our participants, the trainees, then we can see it also as a real learning tool. I think for me, it's something that it helps me to also start observing who are these participants in terms of their skills, like storytelling skills, or the active listening that, listening to the others, and I observe them, how they are interacting. Also, audience engagement, also, how do they actually participate, if they're actively participating or they're more shy or something. So I think that if we are in a training and heritage interpretation that requires all of these skills, the icebreaker is really a learning tool, something that it helps me to observe also the interactions. And I start to see how can I adapt my approach to each of participant a little bit different. And he also tells me more about that, how this group is going to work together. Really, I know the feeling of, I don't know if this is going to be awkward or not, but when I see it as a real tool, learning tool, observational tool, I see it differently, and I definitely use it to, how can I say this, to incorporate more into my training. Just as a very brief example, because if not, I talk. For example, my first icebreaker is a bit like a role playing with different scenarios. And that role playing that each participant is going to perform, I'm going to use it during the rest of my training, either as an examples or even also as a part of something else, another exercise, another activity, because that role playing, it helps me to build a story afterwards. So for me, it's definitely a very important learning tool. And not only the connections that we already mentioned that encourage emotional and personal connections, but also a learning tool and a training mindset also.
Thank you, Gabby.
I'll jump
I'm
in
trying-
and add something,
Yeah.
since I'm also somebody who likes icebreakers. One of the things that I really like to do in trainings are pair shares, small group work. And just like when we're interpreting to the public, that requires increasing levels of vulnerability on the part of a participant, because they're sharing a creation, they're stumbling through an idea that's newer. And so I can use icebreakers, like the first icebreaker of a longer training event, multi-day, let's take CIG. First icebreaker, we are literally just breaking ice. We are just introducing, we are having the experience that class will be a place where students speak as well, but it is a zero stakes experience along the lines of, where would you go on your next vacation? What is your favorite color? Like something that no one is going to have any level of freak out about answering. As we go deeper in, now the things that we are sharing might be still like no stakes, but they might be a little bit more personal, things we hadn't really thought we might bring into a training, all of which serves, I think, to help people relax around one another. It's kind of like what Monique was saying about creating community, so that people will get a little more vulnerable and be willing to share their creations with one another, possibly in front of an entire room. And so I think there's that aspect to it. And I can stage what I'm using as my daily icebreaker. Either, once we've had that first day or two, we don't need to keep loosening the room up. Now we're trying to go deeper together. So I will increase the complexity or increase the vulnerability of the icebreakers a little bit as I go along.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because that was one of my other questions, is how often do you do them? So it sounds like, Kristen, you would label your first one as the icebreaker. May not label them as icebreakers as you go along, but that's the position that the activity holds, is something to bring people together at the beginning. How often do you meet for your CIG classes? And then I'd love to hear from our in-agency people too. How often do you do an icebreaker when you're training CIG? Do you come back to it often, just on a daily basis, just at the start of the 32 hours?
So I typically run a 5-day instruction. It's a 7-day course, but 5 days of instruction. I do an icebreaker at the front of every day, at the beginning of every day. At some point, I will just tell people, we don't necessarily need our ice broken anymore, but we will continue to do icebreakers so that you put them all in your toolkit in case you need them. I'll even crowdsource icebreakers later on, but then I'll also sometimes talk about using them as energizers. And I do that even if I'm teaching a 4-day, like a classic 4-day CIG, it's going to be soup to nuts in 4 days. I will do an icebreaker maybe in the morning, and I'll use one as an energizer when we come back from lunch. Again, to build people's repertoire and to still let me do all of the things I'm doing with my icebreakers. So people will get, 5 to 8 over the course of a program.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I actually do the same that as Kristen. I have one icebreaker for each day, and all of them are related to what we are going to study that day. As I was saying, then after I use it to create a whole story, full story afterwards, but each day. And what is it very nice and surprising sometimes is that after the second or third day, depending on the training, of course, they're already expecting the icebreaker. They're already like, okay, what am I going to do today? And as a little example, also, for example, if the first day we're talking about just the introductory part of heritage interpretation, okay, I use something related to that. The knowing your resource, for example, then I use an icebreaker that is related to that. So is a little bit of like thematic icebreaker too, and it really helped them also to get into the context. So it's icebreaker / activity, but it's more like an icebreaker because it's very short and it's just like the open, like Kristen, you were saying, is like the opportunity where there is no right or wrong, but then opens the chance for participation and get into the theme of the day.
So Beth, you were talking about icebreakers kind of terrify you, it sounds like, as the participant. Are you comfortable using them as a trainer, and how often do you do?
I do use them as a trainer. I try to be very mindful of how a lot of icebreakers have made me feel. So I try to be very sensitive when I'm selecting my icebreakers. As far as how often I use them, I mean, if we're looking at like a week-long training like CIG, or even the interpretive host training that's only a couple of days, probably a handful of times. I really can't put a finger on an exact number, but even when I have my regional educator staff meetings, I will very often have some kind of an icebreaker type, or I like the way Kristen put an energizer type activity that we all do. Yeah.
Yes. I was watching a cute video yesterday by a guy he was saying, first rule is don't call them icebreakers. And he came up with lots of different ways. Energizer wasn't one of the ways, so I have to like go back to that video and write in there, Energizer. I thought that was a great one. Laura, how about you? You love doing icebreakers. When you do your agency training, are you like Beth that even when you're reconnecting with people, you're doing an icebreaker then?
Yeah, we kind of have them built in throughout, like post breaks, post lunch, even just giving people a mental shift. You know, if you're going through poetry, boom, 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 like let's stop and do something maybe a little bit more silly. Something else that we've started doing for our full staff retreats, we do 2 staff retreats a year, and we have 34 permanent staff that work in many different departments. So some of them are not educators or interpreters, and we don't always get to work as closely with people in other departments. So for our staff retreats, we've been adding like kind of some of the more get to know you icebreakers to help build community within our larger staff, which is which is kind of fun. It actually, the request came from our vice president of development, because she's like, I can't keep track of all of these incoming and leaving younger staff members, and so it's a good way to break down those barriers too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. One of the things I want to make sure to give you all is the opportunity to share some resources also for Icebreakers. So I've got just two. I've got just two links I'm going to share with you. One is that first one. It was a company called Break Nice, and they mostly sell icebreakers to you and like help you understand like when to use them and things. We're all experts, I think, on this already. But what I did love about them is that their blog had 3 really good blogs on some the psychology behind them, and then there were 2 others that I thought were really helpful reads. So I wanted to share that link with you. And then Monique was talking about the podcast, What's Up Interpreters podcast, and Jennifer was talking about didn't call them icebreakers, called them another term, but it was that idea is helping at the start to melt, and to reshift. I love how you put this as that mental shift from one chunk to another, and that's a great opportunity to not only do an energizer activity, but it also creates this space for people in the group to learn a little bit more about each other, and it's fun, right? We hope anyway. We do them for fun too. So let's talk a little bit about, and this is kind of well here. Here's what I really wanted to get to today too. Gina, you were asking about some icebreakers that work well that some of us are using. So let's just take a minute in our own brains and think about an icebreaker we'd like to share. And you can put a short, if you type fast, you can put a short thing in the chat about it. Otherwise, if you're really proud of your icebreaker, then go ahead and wave your hand and you can go first. So I'm going to give everybody just a quiet 45 seconds here.
You were missing the Jeopardy clock.
We are. But thankfully, iPhones supply us with a timer. That was a hard one too, because my problem with icebreakers is I don't give people that chance to think before everybody goes. And I want everybody in the group to be listening to other people's responses, but a lot of people then haven't had the chance to go, oh, this is what I want to talk about. So for me, that's a real challenge, and we can talk about challenges as we go beyond. But I want to be respectful of time also as well. So before we leave today, I want to hear a couple icebreakers that maybe Gina you can take away with. So Beth, mission statement Mad Lib, tell us about that, please. That sounds fun.
I used this one recently with a staff meeting. We took our mission statement for our department, and I took a lot of the keywords out, and I had them work in small groups to see if I could fill in. Well, first we did it as a Mad Lib and read through it. Like, does this sound like anything? The mission statement. So then I had them see if they can fill it in with the correct words, and we just talked about, sometimes it's good to refocus on why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing, and how we play an important role in the mission. So it was cool.
Yeah, what a great way to connect them to mission. Because even people who are career interpreters might come in going, this is just my job. But when we analyze the mission, we can really connect much deeper with it. And that hits so many different levels in interpretive training too. That's awesome. What a great idea. Anybody else like to share an icebreaker that they're proud of?
I can. I like icebreakers where like you start small and get larger. So like if you have some question prompts, get to know you, where two people have more time to like share and then have a conversation on like, oh, I like to knit. Okay, well, what do you like to knit? Like, tell me more. But then you regroup with a larger group, and then you get to introduce your partner to the group. And so sometimes I think going back to what you mentioned, like then people will share more one-on-one than they would if you would just ask the question of the large group. So I think like especially thinking about staff trainings and like the first couple days when people are nervous and getting to know each other, that helps down some of those barriers.
I love that too, because what it helps interpreters look for is the moment of connection with their audience too, of not just the resource that's out there, but how to ask deeper questions of the audience that's in front of you. What a great opportunity for interpreters to, especially new interpreters, to get practice with that. Especially, I've noticed there are a lot of introverts in interpretation. When we put on the suit, that helps us to kind of come out of our skin. So here's this great idea of, okay, like your example of the knitting, and then how to get it deeper. Oh, what do you think? If a kid comes up and says, I really like octopus, oh, why? Figuring out where are those opportunities for us as interpreters to ask deeper questions of the audience, and in a way that helps to build a connection, even if that person might be a little shy. So excellent idea.
Yeah, I added in the chat. I hope I explained it well. I was mentioning about the knowing your resource. The one that I use for that is the statues. I asked the group to think about a monument, become a monument. And I said to them, well, depends of the place, but I said you can use the whole area, go and you're going to place yourself as a monument. And think about everything, the materials, the colors, what is the position, why is it there, what is the reason, why you're representing, what are you representing? So all of this little information that they can imagine or they can think. And so it's very fun, because then we create like an exhibit of monuments in one place, right? So they're all taking their position there, and it's very fun also because I can take some pictures, and if they allow, of course. And then recently, when I have younger participants, they also ask if they can be an interactive monument. They can, incorporate movement or sound, and I'm like, yes, even better. So now I said that now you can even add a little button or a QR code where you can scan, and the monument will start moving or something. You can, right? It's like, okay, now they're like another level. So, and it's very interesting. And in one occasion, one of the participants, he says, can I use everybody? I want to be the last one, he said, and can I use everybody to create a monument? And it was beautiful. He asked everybody to take different positions, and he created an amazing monument. Of course, the time is running, but it was good. But so then that it helps me to make the link with the meaning of all of what we are talking about. So a monument is not only a monument, right? There is a meaning behind that. There's a reason. There is something that if we do not use interpretation, we won't know, and we will miss the importance of that monument. And so they love it. They use it as also an opportunity to link, if it's possible, because I tell them link it with your topic. So link, and then I can even use this exercise. I'm sorry, the icebreaker / exercise sometimes. I even use it to ask to start building the themes afterwards. Remember why you did this, why you did that when we play these, and it works. And it helps to visualize a little bit more the subject.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have fun too. Gina, I'm gonna come back to you. Hopefully you're still with us. You're about to lead your in agency. You've been with your agency for a long time, so you have this extreme wealth of knowledge at your agency. And what what kind of icebreakers are you thinking about using? Did we help? Do you have a question for us? Would you like to share one? Anyway, I want to turn it to you. How are you doing?
How am I doing? I thank you all for this. I'm just kind of an open book right now. Just trying to take in a lot. Nerves are, obviously a little high because, I mean, I've talked in front of people before. I've done a little bit of training, not much, but it's up peers. And as I told my staff today at the meeting, it's not so much, doing the program, but it's doing the program in front of people I have known for many, 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 many years. And so, we're pretty close group of people. And so trying to, I guess, do an icebreaker that we could learn something new about each other. That's kind of where I'm trying to aim. So I guess I'm aiming for the mountain as opposed to just trying to make it over the first hill.
But they're already there. They're already in the landscape. So
They're already, yeah, exactly. So what am I thinking? You know what? I'm kind of still working on it. I have a month out and I'm still putting together what I want to do. Trying to pull resources from when I did my CIG training and what that instructor did. My trainers, Karen and
Fran, probably.
no, from Minneapolis, Jan Beatty.
Oh, okay. I don't know her.
Yeah. Anyway, trying to, pull in from what they gave us, as well as, I mean, it was a full class of like 12. So trying to, listen to the other participants. Trying to do internet sources. I mean, it's just so overwhelming and all. So yeah, I'm trying to piece it all together. So
Yeah.
I'm still in the formatting
Yeah. It's
position right now.
amazing how, when we finished the class and it's like, okay, now you can go teach it. And you're like, no, wait.
I
Yeah.
know.
And they give us a lot of resources, but then we have to cull through it and go, okay, what do I rock out? What can I do? And you had touched on really something that's really, really important, I think, Gina, is when we're doing a program for strangers, we're a little bit removed. It's a little bit easier. When we do it for our peers, it's a little bit harder. And I've had this in my CIG classes, is that people come in going, this is going to be great. And that right before the program, they're starting to go, I can't do this.
Right.
But those icebreakers are helping to build that community all along. You're going to do awesome. I just know it from all the care that you've already, and from that you're talking about, how much you care about this, how connected you've been in your agency for so long. It's going to be wonderful. One of the things that we were talking about at the last CIGT for NAI was was that we get better every time. We teach it. And so you're coming into this new role of, yes, you've done this before, but now you're doing this for the staff. And so you're going to be looking at it in several different ways, is the building the interpretive staff, but also building your confidence and abilities to make them even better than where they are. And so tremendous amount of expectations. I'm sure Gabby and Monique also felt this too, teaching our first ones, like, oh, it's going to be great. And then over time, some of that settles down and other ones come up and it's like, oh,
Right.
I'm really good at this one. And I know where my butterflies are. I'm like, okay, I need to figure out a way to help myself through this module a little bit better. And sometimes that's putting in a module that I'm like, I got this, I nailed this module. I have it, sometimes that helps. So we're rounding out our hour. So what I do want to do is go ahead and close up